Should the Minnesota Vikings go after Brendan Sorsby? This is the million-dollar question that every single NFL team is asking themselves right now, because it is oh so tempting to put in a legitimate bid for the complicated but talented quarterback. Here's why it's so tempting for teams like the Vikings, particularly, to put in a bid for Sorsby. And I would even say that it's more tempting for the Vikings to put in a bid for Sorsby than a team like the Browns or another bottom feeder in the NFL. If you're a bottom feeder in the NFL, like the Cardinals or the Browns, you're likely to have a top selection in the next NFL draft. So you can draft one of the best quarterbacks available. But if you are the Minnesota Vikings, and you'll probably finish at worst 8-9, 9-8, or maybe even at best 11-6 or 12-5, that puts you out of the range of being able to draft one of the best quarterbacks in the loaded 2027 NFL draft class. So, what an opportunity to draft a guy that could have been projected to go into the top 5 of the 2027 NFL draft, but because of his trouble, you're able to get him for a 3rd or 4th round pick. What an amazing opportunity. What a moment to capitalize on getting a top 5 quarterback talent on your team. Because you're not going to be able to trade up. You're not going to be able to get one of those guys in the 20s or in the late teens. But Brendan Sorsby, a 6'3" monster that has this big arm and has mobility, you could get him for a 3rd or 4th round pick. That is so tempting. And yes, he's been in trouble and is an addict to gambling, which brings their own issues of their own. But the NFL system doesn't really care if players get in trouble, as long as they win. Ben Roethlisberger has been in big trouble. Jameis Winston was in big trouble in college. Cam Newton was in big trouble in college. The list goes on and on and on of quarterbacks that have gotten in trouble. But if they win, nobody cares. No one cares. There's this bit by a comedian that I think is the most accurate thing. And I just want to play it for you for a moment.
Like, as big as racism is in America, football. That's true. That's true. Look, there's a Disney movie, Remember the Titans, dedicated to what I just told you. The whole point of that, dude, that was one high school football season. Remember the Titans was like, it was 8 weeks. That whole town went from like centuries of like, don't let them in our school, to just like, oh shit, the high school team's 4-0. Those are my brothers. The point I'm trying to make is, if you want to get rights in America, you just got to put together a good football team. If the transgenders got together and put together just a fucking hard-nosed, run it down your throat ball club. If the trans did just 3 yards in a cloud of dust of transgenders. If the trans community could just somehow upset Alabama, everybody down there tomorrow would be like, those are some tough bitches, actually.
If you put together a good football team and they win, nobody cares. Nobody cares what you've done in the past. Nobody cares what kind of person you were. You could commit some of the worst crimes, get in prison, and if you win football games, everything will be forgiven. So if Brendan Sorsby gets selected by the Vikings and he becomes the face of the Vikings and they win a Super Bowl, everyone's going to overlook his troubled past. But can the Vikings get past his troubled past. It's tempting, but here's why they might stay away. He's addicted to gambling, and he's seeking help. Great for him. But the more I think about Brendan Sorsby, the more I think about and see Johnny Manziel. It's easy to say all of the right things during the pre-draft process. Yeah, I'm really working on myself. I'm working on fixing my problems and becoming a better man. All words doesn't really mean anything until it becomes proven that you've changed, not for a day or a week, not during the interview process, but for years. Can Brendan Sorsby be a part of an NFL organization like the Vikings and stay out of gambling trouble for years? Not just a day, not just a month, not just a season. Can he stay out of gambling trouble for 10 to 15 years? Yes, he's talented, but he's also raw. He's not this guy that you're selecting as a top 5 guy and you know he's going to become an all-time quarterback. Yeah, he's got comparisons to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. He looks like him. He throws like him. He's got the body. He's got the size and the mobility. But can he actually play football at a high level? All the projections say that he could, but can he? And if you're Nolan Teasley, do you really want one of your first big moves to be to draft Brendan Sorsby in the NFL Supplemental Draft? You're giving up a 3rd or 4th round pick in next year's NFL Draft that could be really valuable to a guy that's had such success with the Seahawks drafting players? Do you really want to give up a 3rd round pick for him? It's really a tough call. Probably what is most likely or the smartest is you throw in a 6th round bid and see if you get lucky. See if all the other teams are afraid to put in a bid on the guy. But it's like, you got this massive talent sitting right in front of you that you could have if you really wanted. Any NFL team could have this guy if they really wanted. Because no team is going to put in a 1st round bid. Hardly any teams will put in a 2nd round bid. So if a team wants Sorsby, they can have him immediately. It's like if he does really figure it out and become an outstanding citizen on an NFL organization, and then he becomes a great football player, you're going to be looking at that decision thinking, this decision set us up to have success for the next 10 to 15 years. And if you don't and he becomes a great player, you're thinking, oh, I could have had him. We could have had this guy. We could have had this all-time talent who got in trouble for gambling. You look at gambling, and gambling isn't something that's easy to overcome. It seems like there's a lot of other issues that come with the gambling, like mental problems, physical problems, bad habits. Is that something that can be fixed? I mean, you look at $90,000 bet over a period of a few years. I mean, that's an addiction. Now, another question that needs to be asked is, does Kevin O'Connell want to bring in a Brendan Sorsby for a developmental project? And then what happens? Well, you got Kyler, Wentz, McCarthy, Sorsby. Well, one of those guys is going to have to go. It's not going to be Kyler. Probably won't be Wentz. Is the guy McCarthy? Does Kevin O'Connell want to bring on a project like Sorsby as he's in the middle of trying to develop Kyler Murray? And my response to that would be, they brought in Daniel Jones. When Daniel Jones was released by the Giants and free to sign anywhere, the Vikings signed Daniel Jones so Kevin O'Connell could do his quarterback whisperer thing. Now, is Sorsby another animal? Developmentally, he needs to be developed. Does Kevin O'Connell want to take on that project while he's in the middle of getting Kyler Murray ready for QB1 reps? If he's as talented as everyone says he is, if the Vikings truly believe that Sorsby could be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in 2 years, is it tempting to put in a top bid for him? Again, if you're the Cardinals, you stay away. Why? You're going to have a top 5 pick next year. Draft any quarterback you want. I think Sorsby really becomes more interesting for teams like the Vikings that need a long-term quarterback, but are never in the position to draft one in the top 3. It's certainly tempting to do it, but man, are there red flags. If you want to get great beef in your freezers today because you're too tired of paying too much, you need to contact Hokeland Farms Beef at 952-491-1541. That's 952-491-1541. You go to the grocery store and you get beef for $8, $9, $10 a pound, more for chuck roast and steaks. Hokeland Farm has a set price for $4 a pound. 952-491-1541. And get 20% off your first order by mentioning you heard it from Tim. 952-491-1541. Nolan Teasley has made substantial front office decisions already by getting rid of some long-term guys that were a part of the Vikings organization for 20 plus years. And now he's brought in guys like former Bears general manager Ryan Pace as a football advisor, as well as some other guys that he plucked away from his former employer, the Seahawks, as he made them assistant general managers. So he's establishing his system with the Vikings. What this tells me is that nobody is safe in the Vikings organization. As much as he's praising Kevin O'Connell and talking about the quarterback whisperer and his greatness, and the quarterback situation relies on Kevin O'Connell, so much of this season is a prove-it year for Kevin O'Connell. It's a prove-it year for everyone in the Vikings organization. Because Teasley, he doesn't have that long to figure it out. He's bringing in his guys from the Seahawks. He's getting rid of Vikings front office guys that have been in the organization forever. It's a prove-it year for everyone in the Vikings organization. Because if they stink it up this year, I don't think Teasley is going to hesitate at all to clean house. He already brought in his own guys from Seattle less than a month into his job to be his guys, his head honchos. And if Kevin O'Connell stinks, if Kyler Murray sucks, if the quarterback isn't figured out, what would stop Nolan Teasley from cleaning his slate, going to the ownership group? Hey, this wasn't my coach. This wasn't my quarterback. Give me a chance, and I'll show you that I can bring in a quarterback and a head coach that can win football games in the playoffs. So Nolan Teasley, he's fearless. And he's not going to be afraid to hurt feelings because someone has been a part of the organization for a certain period of time. And you've got to love that. He's not just going to sit on his hands because someone has been here for so long and he seems like he could be the right guy. No, that's not his mentality. It's a prove-it year for Kevin O'Connell. Didn't make it to the playoffs. The quarterback he drafted isn't going to start. If the guy that he brings in, Kyler Murray, that he highlighted at the end of the regular season last year as one of the quarterbacks he wanted to target, if it doesn't work out, what's stopping Teasley from saying, yeah, I want to bring in my own guy. I want to bring in my head coach, my quarterback. I want to run things the way I want to. I think that's realistic. I don't think he's going to be afraid of pulling the plug on Kevin O'Connell if KOC doesn't bring a winning season. Because you only have so long as a general manager. The day you're hired as a general manager, the clock is ticking until you're fired. If Kevin O'Connell has a losing year and the quarterback situation still isn't figured out, he might have to act. Keep your eye on that. Thank you for watching and for listening to this podcast. Thank you for making the Brawl with Tim Paul a part of your day. 2026 has been a great year of breaking records.